So the film begins with James. He's driving recklessly, lost in his joy. Suddenly, a large truck pulls up in front of him, and he nearly crashes into it. He almost has an accident. But he manages to drift and pull over. He was so quick that he didn't notice a girl coming from the other side of the road. When he noticed her, he almost hit her, but he reversed his course. The girl quickly jumped back, barely avoiding being hit by the car, but in the process, all her belongings were thrown onto the road. Her suitcase breaks, and everything scatters across the road. James, knowing he caused all of this, immediately feels guilty and begins picking up the girl's belongings while apologizing to her. Just then, the girl's bus arrives, and seeing her collecting her luggage in this situation, it leaves without her, making James feel even more remorseful. This girl had planned to leave her town for the big city, but because she couldn't catch the bus, she was forced to return to Silent Hill, where she used to live. James realizes that everything that happened was his fault. He immediately decides to fix his mistake and tells the girl that he will drop her wherever she wants to go. The girl hesitates because she clearly does not trust him. James promises that if she refuses, he will stand there until she safely boards another bus. The girl knows that no bus will arrive until the next day. Because of that, she reluctantly agrees to go with him. James quickly helps her gather her luggage, and they start heading towards Silent Hill. Suddenly, a strong breeze begins to blow, and everything feels strangely peaceful. The atmosphere becomes romantic and awkward for both of them. The girl, whose name is Mary, explains that whenever a new person arrives in Silent Hill, a strange wind like this appears, as if Silent Hill itself is welcoming the newcomer. At that moment, a strange attraction forms between them, leaving both of them confused. Just as this tension begins to grow, the scene suddenly cuts. We then see James sitting outside, and a twist is revealed. Everything we just saw was not real. It was only a story playing inside his mind. James was drunk at that moment. His phone kept ringing repeatedly, but he ignored it. He was in terrible condition because of the alcohol. When he tried to stand up, he fell onto a staff member. As soon as the rest of the staff noticed this, they called the security guards, who threw him out of the place. His phone continued ringing until he finally answered it. The call was from his psychologist, who already knew about his condition. She was extremely angry with him for not taking his situation seriously. She reminded him that they had an appointment the next day and warned him not to miss it. James barely responded. His voice sounded weak and full of sadness, clearly showing that he was deeply broken. Eventually, he reached home, exhausted. Inside, he found a letter from Mary. In the letter, she wrote that something was terribly wrong with her and that she needed James immediately. Without thinking twice, James decided to go to Silent Hill. It was raining heavily, and he was driving while drunk, meaning anything could happen. But Mary was the only thing on his mind. She was the most important woman in his life. James could not bear the thought of anything happening to her. He was determined to find her no matter what. Lost in his thoughts, he eventually fell asleep while driving. When he woke up, he saw that his car was parked near a public bathroom. Looking at himself in the mirror, he barely recognized his own face. He no longer looked like the old James. There were deep lines under his eyes and a long beard. Anyone could clearly see that he was suffering from deep depression. At that moment, he read Mary's letter again and began to cry. Memories of all the beautiful moments they had shared in Silent Hill came rushing back. Everyone had told him to forget Mary and move on with his life. But James could not forget her. He still felt that Mary needed him. As James entered Silent Hill, he met a girl named Angela. She asked him to help carry a bag, and they began walking together. Angela talked about the weather while James listened silently. Eventually, James interrupted her and asked if she knew where Mary was. Angela replied that he would never see her. James barely paid attention to her words because he was still lost in memories of Mary. Silent Hill now looked extremely eerie in the rain, but James remembered how beautiful it had been when he and Mary first arrived there. It was that beauty that made Mary promise him they would live there peacefully for the rest of their lives. At that moment, James remembered something strange. Mary had always hidden certain things from him. She feared that if James discovered them, he might leave her. But James had always promised her that no matter what happened, he would never leave her. As James walked deeper into Silent Hill, he noticed that the once beautiful town had become a barren wasteland. The streets were dark and filled with garbage. Buildings were collapsing. It felt as if everyone had left this place years ago, and the town itself no longer wanted any humans there. But James kept moving forward. He eventually saw a warning sign that said, "Danger ahead." Ignoring it, he entered a narrow tunnel and called out Mary's name. But no one answered. Suddenly, strange music started playing from another tunnel. Following the sound, James found a radio lying under a cloth near a corpse. As he reached for it, strange noises began echoing. The dead man suddenly warned him not to go any further and said that the town was cursed. At that moment, James's phone rang again. It was his psychologist, angry that he had missed his appointment. James told her that he was in Silent Hill and that something terrible was happening there. The doctor did not believe him and told him to stop making excuses and come back immediately. Annoyed, James hung up. As he looked around, he noticed light coming from a shop. When he entered, his memories returned again. It was the same restaurant where he and Mary had confessed their love. Suddenly, a horrifying scream broke the silence. James saw that the same man who had warned him earlier was now burning and melting in a strange way. Before James could react, he heard another terrifying sound behind him. Turning around, he saw a horrifying creature whose hands and mouth were completely covered with skin. The monster attacked him immediately. James fought desperately to survive and eventually managed to kill the monster. But strange sounds began coming from the radio again. As night fell, the atmosphere became even more terrifying. Small creatures resembling snakes and cockroaches began crawling out of the ground and attacking James. While running away from them, James entered a house and locked the glass door, finally escaping the creatures. Inside, he realized that this was the same house where he and Mary used to live. Suddenly, he heard Mary's voice. Even though he could not see her, he followed the voice upstairs and discovered a videotape playing. The tape was dated June 2017. Watching it caused him immense emotional pain. He called his psychiatrist and begged her to make the pain stop. She told him that the pain would only end if he accepted that Mary was no longer alive. But James refused to accept that. Meanwhile, the psychiatrist became worried and informed the police about James's location because she believed he was in danger. As James continued exploring the house, he remembered strange memories about Mary's family and their strange behavior. Later, he met a man named Andy who explained what had happened in Silent Hill. He said that a strange rain containing a virus had fallen over the town. The contaminated water killed many people, and the survivors turned into monsters. Because of this, creatures began emerging from the ground and killing the remaining humans. Now, almost no one was left alive in Silent Hill. James was horrified but continued searching for Mary. Soon, he encountered a terrifying monster with a pyramid-shaped metal helmet and a giant sword. This monster was known as Pyramid Head. James ran for his life as multiple terrifying monsters chased him. He eventually hid inside a closet while the pyramid monster attacked it. James was injured and eventually lost consciousness. When he woke up, he realized something shocking. Everything he had experienced was actually happening inside his mind. He was in a psychiatric hospital, and his psychiatrist explained that he had been undergoing treatment for months. James had been in deep shock since Mary's death and had lost the ability to distinguish between reality and illusion. Through therapy, he finally remembered the truth. Mary had asked him to end her suffering because she could no longer bear the pain of her illness. James had reluctantly killed her. Overwhelmed with guilt, he had buried this truth deep inside his mind. Now, the truth had finally surfaced. But even after remembering everything, James still refused to accept that Mary was gone. The movie ends with this haunting mystery.